Long time no see, Packers faithful. There's simply too much happening in the offseason to not talk about it. Whether or not you think it's good or bad, Aaron Rodgers is all but a New York Jet at this point. We'll share our thoughts on AR-12's legacy in Green Bay and look ahead to the Jordan Love era. As always, we'll also share some feedback from the best community out there. All this and more coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Welcome back, friends. Wayne Henderson here with you. And I've got to tell you, this has been one wacky and weird offseason. But as they say, hope springs eternal. Oh, and go Pack Go. They say that too, Scott.
Go Pack Go, indeed. I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider Podcast, and I've never been more exhausted during an offseason as much as I am this year. Boy, what a flurry of emotions happening right now. I'm kind of just like, can we just get the year started so we can stop talking about it? But although the draft is still about a month away, we had to come back early for this special episode of the Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. It's episode number 272, and we have to talk about the obvious news. Not only has Aaron Rodgers been traded to a new team, but we've already lost some other top talent. It's kind of crazy right now.
And there could be more to come our way. We're also going to be sharing some listener thoughts and theories on the matters facing us Packers fans at the moment. Now, let's dig right in, because in addition to being a Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, all while being the owner of the Chicago Bears, Aaron Rodgers has kind of been playing general manager of the New York Jets for the past couple of weeks, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. And you bring up a funny point with the whole owning the Bears thing. Now that he's going to be in New York, he's not going to be playing Chicago nearly as often. So I wonder if the rivalry is going to still be a thing in his mind. Not, because they're not playing him twice a year like he was before. That's
a solid point. Now, of course, there's at least one Bears fan out there who says that it's going to be Bears versus the Jets in the Super Bowl. But, let's get back down to reality for a moment,
That could, it could have happened. Sure. The Bears made some moves. They had a pretty sweet deal between them and Carolina. And they could be a formidable force. I worry, Wayne. I know you are super optimistic. You were always looking at the positivity. I worry, as much as I don't want it to happen, I worry that it is our time to be the underdogs in terms of Chicago, just because our team is so young. Granted, Chicago's team is young as well. But DJ Moore he's got a little more time behind him. Justin Fields is looking good if they can keep from running him as much as they did last season and actually spread that ball out a little bit more. I don't know, man. I don't want it to happen. I'm just afraid of the possibility of us going back to the early 80s when the Packers were not on top, and we're overdue. We're overdue. But do you think that's a possibility?
Anything's possible, Scott, but aren't the Lions overdue to win a Super Bowl? Some things, just don't happen no matter how overdue you are. They're probably going to be a strong team, but anything can happen to any team. There can be injuries, yada, yada, yada. And, traditionally, the Bears do suck. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. We could be, even without Aaron Rodgers, we could be the Green Bay Packers in the Bears' heads.
That's a good point. My question is, why the Jets? What are the chances? It's literally 1 in 31 that our quarterback is going to go to the same team that Brett Favre did. What is it that's so attractive about New York that we're just like we're a farm team for the Jets now at this point in terms of the quarterback position?
I think that's a great question. All I could think of is a lot of times players do want to go to the big city, the Big Apple. And plus, on the Packers side, at least he's not going into the NFC, so that's good for us. Plus, the Giants are kind of steady, so Jets it is.
So what's next? The year after, he's going to be a Viking?
Now that cannot be allowed to happen.
It happened with Favre, so...
Well, we learned our lesson. I think the Packers learned their lesson on this one. They're not going to
Well, I
let
mean,
that
they
happen.
don't have any control. They can't do anything. They couldn't stop that from happening, right? I mean, I
Maybe.
understand it's a weird coincidence. It's likely not going to happen, but it's just so weird to me that he's going to the same team that Favre did.
Very.
It's just very bizarre to me. So what are your overall thoughts on this move? I mean, obviously there's like mixed emotions amongst fans in our community, but also just like on the interwebs in general. Some people are like, this is awful news. Some people are like, it's time to move on. Where do you land?
It was bound to happen, just the way things have gone over the past couple of years and then this offseason. And, we're just tired of it. We're ready for a fresh start. We don't want to lose Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. There were a lot of questionable calls and things over the past season or so that, we don't know. Was it his injury? Was it his crazy play calling? Was it the coach's play calling? We're going to find that out this season with a different quarterback, apparently. And even though Aaron's been increasingly frustrating over the past few years on as well as off the field, let's get real. So many historic things have happened during his time in Green Bay. And after sitting behind Brett Favre for 3 years, much like Jordan Love sat behind Aaron for 3 years, Aaron became better and better each year as a starter. And looking back, I mean, there's a million things, and we got some listener thoughts that are going to touch on a lot of them as well. But for me, I feel fortunate to have witnessed the playoff game against the Cardinals a few years ago, even though we did lose in overtime, mostly because our defense couldn't tackle Larry Fitzgerald. Seeing AR-12 throw 2 successful Hail Marys, and I think they were in a row, and it was on the final drive to even get us into overtime, it was insane. It almost felt like destiny. The Cardinals fans around us in the stadium were just like, really? 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 We're going to allow that? So
yeah,
that was one of my big things that I remember. And of course, we've got the listener thoughts that are going to come up that are going to have you saying, go Pack, go from here till September. What are some things that jump out at you?
I mean, I'm going to be direct, Wayne. I'm just so tired of the drama. I mean, just no matter what you say, no matter what you do, somebody is telling you you're wrong. If you've got some people, whether Packer fans or not, that are saying that you should be on your knees thanking Aaron Rodgers for the past 15 years, which I agree with. But then you've got some people that are just like so dismissive and like done. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as being a middle of the road fan anymore, and that's very weird to me. I respect the guy. I've loved everything that he's done for the team, but I'm also frustrated with what he's done. I had somebody accuse me of falling into the media trap and characterizing Rodgers because of what the media says about him. I'm like, he's on the Pat McAfee show. Like, he is doing this stuff. It's not like we're misinterpreting what he's said and what he's done. I think the unknowns are things that we don't know in terms of what's going on with internally in the Packers, that we'll never see what's going on. We'll never see those conversations about what happened. Who knows? Maybe he was treated poorly. Maybe they, maybe they weren't giving him the things that he suggested that they needed. Maybe he's being egotistical and just doesn't want anybody to do anything except for what he thinks is best. And there's a lot of that's unknown, but it's hard to argue with the way that he's portrayed himself in the public eye. And I'm tired of people telling me that I'm wrong for feeling the way I am about Rodgers. And the way that I feel about Rodgers is I respect the guy, but I have been ready to move on since before the end of last season. It's time. I mean, not just because the stars align in terms of how long Rodgers sat on the bench. It's
Right.
weird how everything just matches up with Favre. Like, are we just going to have this same pattern for are we just going to have Jordan Love for the next 15 years? I just, it's insane. But yeah, bottom line, I'm done. I mean, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to look to the future. And that's unfortunately all everybody is going to be talking about when the first game of the season happens. That's all the announcers are going to be mentioning. Hey, this is the first time Packers are playing without, Aaron Rodgers, and that first Jets game that's all it's going to be talking about. And I'm not looking forward to it. I love the game more than I love the man, if that makes sense. And I said the same thing about Favre. I was a Packer fan before I was a Favre fan.
Yes.
I'm a Packers fan before I'm a Rodgers fan.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And, we will be sick of hearing all about the Aaron Rodgers stuff during the Packers games. And of course, during Jets games, people will be hearing about the Packers. But on the plus side, Scott, I don't think that this season we're going to have to hear, Devontae Adams, he used to be a Green Bay Packer, and now without him, we're having trouble. And did you see that in the first game of the year, Christian Watson dropped a surefire touchdown? So I think
it's going to be something new.
Exactly. Thank goodness, because those other things, got really, really old. And so unless things totally fall apart with the negotiations between the Packers and the Jets, it's as close to a done deal as can be. And it looks like Jordan Love, good old number 10, is going to be our quarterback going forward. And he has some great highlight reels from his time at Utah State. That gives me a lot of hope, though I know the NFL game is different. And although Love hasn't had much of a chance to show on the field for Green Bay, I have every confidence that he'll do well. If only he follows LaFleur's playbook and not throw the ball 20 yards down the field when it's 4th and 1 every other week, I think we'll be just fine. And besides, remember, we still have the dynamic duo of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, not to mention dynamic receivers in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs.
Totally. I mean, we've got a younger team here, but I'm 100% okay with the Packers moving forward with a run-first offense. I mean, that's what football was founded on, and I feel like in the past 30-plus years, it's become such a quarterback-focused game. More so, it's all about like what's a quarterback doing and everything. I don't think Jordan Love has to be a Brett Favre or an Aaron Rodgers to lead this team. He just has to be a leader. And even though there are some veterans on the team, it's such a young team that he has the ability and the situation to be able to be that good leader. And I think that's where Rodgers was at his best with the Packers, is when he was being a good leader with the things that we didn't see in the locker room, or the things we did see, the antics during the interviews at the end of games that you could just tell that there was a love between the players that has been absent for the past 2 or 3 years. If Jordan Love were smart, I think he would capitalize on that leadership role, not be timid, but grab the bull by its horns and go from there. In terms of Jordan Love himself, I think that the disadvantage that he's got is that he's not in quite the same situation that Rodgers was with Favre, because, and it's been a minute, it's been 30 years since Favre played that first game back in 92 when he came in as a Packer. Had 31 years. Holy cow. I don't remember the specifics, but I don't remember there being negativity from Favre when Rodgers was drafted. Fast forward to when Jordan Love was drafted, it definitely seemed like Rodgers had an issue that they drafted a quarterback in that first round instead of giving him things that would help him. And because of that, I worry about mentoring that Rodgers has done for Love in the past 3 years. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And I think it's going to be just fine. It's neither of them, Favre or Rodgers, did much mentoring, I don't believe, from what we've heard. So he's kind of on his own, but I think he's going to be fine. And don't forget, we've got David Bakhtiari still to help protect him.
Well, hopefully.
Well, yeah. Okay. Good point. He's got to be healthy this year, right?
Yeah. I hope so. I don't know. I'm hopeful, and I'm gonna pull a Wayne and just be as positive as possible.
Oh, nice.
No, I am, because everyone has just been saying, "Oh, Jordan Love is not the guy. Jordan Love is not the guy. He's not an Aaron Rodgers." I don't think Rodgers was a Favre.
Nope.
The first year or two that he was in there, give the guy a shot. We loved Rodgers because he was a much more fundamental quarterback than Favre was. Favre was very, very like, let's see if I can pull out of my butt and make something happen here. And granted, Rodgers has had those moments as well, but when he started out, he was just a more fundamental quarterback. And I think that is what our team needs to get back to its roots, is the fundamentals of that, relying on the running game. We've got a young talent. Do I think we'll win? We'll go all the way this year? Probably not. However, how sweet would that be to see Jordan Love lead this team and just run the table and go through and be like, well, guess the problem wasn't the management or the coaching. You know what I mean?
That would be fantastic.
And I know that sounds bitter, and I don't wish ill will towards Rodgers at all. I wish him all the best, but I feel more slighted with Rodgers going to the Jets than I did with Favre. With Favre, it felt like he did what he did here. He still had a good attitude about it. It didn't seem like an arrogance thing, at least at the time. Again, I was 15 years younger, so you know what I mean. I would love to go back into my head and have a conversation with myself about how I felt about it back then. But it was more of a, oh man, that really stinks. This is a bummer. But you know what? Rodgers looks pretty good. I think we're going to be okay. I feel like with Jordan Love, he's so much more untested at this point. We've seen so little of him outside of his college footage, and the situations where he was thrust into, they were high pressure situations. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does that very first game where it's not, it's just win the game. You know what I mean? It's not like worrying about being in the shadow of the guy that's sitting on the bench and is hurt. Just be your own player and do the best that you can, and let's make this happen.
That would be fantastic. And of course, the schedule doesn't come out till either the last week of April, maybe the first week of May. So we don't know what they're going to make him do on the very first week. Please don't have us start on the road again. For heaven's sakes, can we start the season at home and have it not be against the Vikings?
Mm-hmm.
We could be going to Denver or have a home.
The Jets.
Well, we're not playing the Jets this season unless it comes down to Packers-Jets Super Bowl, and then the hype would be almost unbearable. But, maybe a nice home game, Saints at Packers. That would be a good way to open the season.
I don't know, man. That didn't go quite so well last time.
Well, last time it was on the road. It was supposed to be in New Orleans, and then it got moved to Jacksonville, and it was hot and humid. And it was a million things at the last minute. That was bonkers. Mm-hmm. So, in addition to Bakhtiari, Josh Nijman signed this past week. He's coming back as well to help protect things, and he did really good. Keyshawn Nixon is going to be back to return punts and kickoffs. You alluded to Alan Lazard also going to the Jets, so Aaron Rodgers has some familiarity there. And this one hurts almost worse. Bobby Tunyon is now a Chicago Bear. Blah.
Yeah. I mean, I know Tunyon wasn't super explosive last season, but he had those clutch plays that just really were great. He just came through in the moments that he needed to. I think DeGuara is a great player, but I still think he's a little below Tunyon as well too. But he's also younger, so he's got some room to grow. And I think that we're definitely in a growing phase this season. We're a very, very young team now. Just like that, we are a young team. So. It's going to be not even a rebuilding. It's going to be just a building. You know what I mean?
Well, we're not anybody's underdog, in my opinion, and we're certainly not an expansion team. Mm-hmm. So, we just got to turn things around from how things were last year. It's a long way away before it starts. Who knows how many draft picks we're going to get from the Jets for Aaron Rodgers, in addition to all of our other draft picks. So who knows what we're going to do in the draft at the end of April next month. It's going to be wait and see, but I don't think we're going to draft a kicker in the first round.
Oh, man. A kicker in the first round. Could you imagine? I think that this is the first year in a long time that I'm going to be very, very interested in watching preseason. I haven't watched preseason in a long time.
Our starting quarterback might actually play in the preseason.
Right. And I think that will definitely happen this year. It has to happen this year. And I'm going to be really curious to see how that goes.
And let's address the elephant in the room. I don't think we have any other quarterbacks on deck. So sometime, maybe in the third round, you think we're going to have to draft a backup quarterback? We need somebody.
Yeah, we definitely do need somebody. Do you think it'll go that late, third? I mean, yeah, they have a lot of other needs. Yeah. And to the same point, I'm going to be paying a lot more closer attention to the draft this year too.
Nice.
I don't know if I'm going to watch the whole thing, but I might have it on in the background and try to learn about some of these players because I know nothing about college still to this day.
And of course, we'll be back a few days after the draft completes to have a special episode talking about all the picks the Packers get and kind of go from there. And then another episode once the schedule comes out. We'll have some early predictions and talk about travel plans or whatever. But for now, let's go ahead and dig into the listener feedback. We got a few calls with some great insights to talk about here on the show. First off, let's take it away, David Newman.
Hey, PFP, this is David out in Washington, D.C. Well, I guess time is a flat circle. Rodgers is now going to the Jets. Or, as long as Green Bay makes a trade. Rodgers, I had a lot of dislike towards the last couple of years. Definitely turned out to be one of the weirder quarterbacks, at least vocally. I do appreciate, the time that he had put in for Green Bay. He made us relevant for another 15 years, brought us another Super Bowl. Wish it would have been more. I think he has some of the blame. I think Mike McCarthy has some of the blame. I think the Green Bay Packers have some of the blame for why there's not more. At this point, it doesn't matter. So definitely is a little bittersweet to see him go, but I am very excited to see what the future holds and understanding that there's potential that Jordan Love might not be the guy, and he might not be the next Hall of Fame quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and that's okay. But he definitely needs to get his shot. Excited to see what that brings. We're also now seeing kind of a big turnover. I shouldn't say big turnover, but definitely some Packers that are leaving because Rodgers is gone. Got Lazard is leaving, going to the Jets. I just saw Bobby T is now leaving for the Bears. It's going to be interesting to watch the Packers this year. Don't necessarily think they'll be a playoff team, maybe a wild card spot, but very unlikely. We have to remember that Jordan Love might not be might not be the guy. B might not show all of his greatness, but might show some flashes. If he shows some flashes, I have some high hopes for him. And remember that Rodgers didn't win a Super Bowl for the first 3 years that he was there. So excited to see what goes on for the Packers. And as always, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed. David, thank you so much for the call. As always, it's awesome hearing from you. I've been chatting with David through text message over the past couple of weeks about this very situation. So makes a really interesting point about lots of blame to go around, because I think it's easy to put that blame on one side or the other. You've got one camp that are blaming Rodgers and saying he's just full of himself and just getting too big for his britches. And then you've got some people that are saying that the front office and all the coaching staff are not doing what is best for the team. But it's probably a little bit of everybody. You know what I mean? There's not just one person or one group of people to blame everything on. This is a group effort. This is a team effort, and we'll probably never know who's really at fault, because we're only getting the information that we're given, through the media. And that is, I mentioned earlier about somebody giving me flack about falling into the media characterization of Rodgers. I don't think that's true, but I will say we're only getting the story that the media is telling us, and we're only getting, and that story is the only one that is being told to the media. You know what I mean? So we're never going to know the whole story. We're never going to know who to blame.
Yeah, there's plenty of blame to go around, because whenever I catch myself thinking that it's all Rodgers, let's do remember that the way that Clay Matthews and a few other star players in recent years have just either been offered ridiculously low contracts to almost disrespect them or whatever. It's I don't know what's going on with the front office. So hopefully this will give them a little further pause to take a look at how they do things, so we don't have this happening again in a couple of years with some other star player on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's just so many questions, and we're so far away from the beginning of this season. It's hard to speculate at this point. I love football, but I want to watch some baseball before I
do?
start. I mean, I don't like watch it. I don't watch a ton of baseball. I follow the Brewers, but I'm more of a like casual fan than I am a football fan. But I want to enjoy my summer before I start thinking about football too hard. You know what I mean? We don't even have the draft yet. You know what I mean? There's just so much time, and there's no way to know at all what's going to happen. I mean, David seems very confident that Jordan Love is not the guy, and he's not alone in that. I'm in the camp that I don't know if Jordan Love is the guy. I feel like he hasn't been given enough of a chance to know whether or not he's the guy. Were we saying that about Rodgers 15 years ago? He's not the guy. Yeah, he's not going to be any Favre. I mean, there are still people today that say that Favre is still the superior quarterback, although it's easier to consider that now just because there's a lot of anger towards him. I still think Aaron Rodgers was a more fundamental quarterback than Brett Favre was. He wasn't quite as fun to watch as Favre was, but I appreciated the consistency that Favre had for most of his career with the Packers.
Yeah, Favre definitely brought the fun, and Aaron Rodgers had moments of fun, but like the "I still own you," one of the greatest moments, and it was only a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. But this past season, Aaron did not look like he was having fun a lot of the time. So let's turn that around with a new young quarterback that's about the same age as all the players, and they can bond like you talked about. And like David said, maybe a wild card team if we're lucky. So let's go back to the listener line at 920-3PACK-GO, or again, you can always send in your feedback, record it on your phone, and email it to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Go, 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 Pack, go! Ooh, I need to work on that. It's been too long. I've lost my stamina. Woo! Oh, it's good to be able to call into the show again and share some thoughts. We've entered into free agency, the free agency frenzy, as they were calling it. Draft is right around the corner. Excited for that. We have 11 picks so far without considering any compensatory picks that we might get from Alan Lazard and Bobby T going to the Bears. Boo. I'm excited for that draft. There's a lot of tight ends and wide receivers out there that are of good quality. And that's two of our needs, obviously. Be great to see. Can't wait to see who we pick up this year. Back to free agency, luckily, thankfully, we retained Keyshawn Nixon. Great to have him back in the fold. Old Cobby and Mercedes Lewis. I doubt they bring him back. Crosby says he wants to come back, but I don't know I think it might be time for him to hang up his cleats. And we got a couple other veterans out there. Got Amos, Lowry, Ford, and Barnes. I'd like to see us retain them guys because you need some veteran leadership to help out these new rookies that'll be coming into the fold. But yeah, free agency. Got to address the elephant in the room, Aaron Rodgers. Can't say I was surprised that he's chosen to move on or wants to move on after listening to his interview on the Pat McAfee show. But in the end of it, I'm just sick of all the media drama that's been raised and all the drama that he's created as well. I did appreciate his candidness, telling his side of the story, but there are two sides to every story. Well, actually, they say three, his, theirs, and the truth. But I doubt we'll ever get both of those. But yeah, even though it looks like we're prepared to move on to the Love era, which I'm fine with. I keep trying to convince myself of that. It's just hard to move on when you've had such an amazing quarterback for so long. I mean, you're talking 15 years as an active player, 3 years as a backup, preceded by another Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre. But man, Rodgers has left us with some incredible moments, some incredible memories, and I'll never forget those. The Hail Marys, the Detroit Miracle, the two consecutive bombs to Jeff Janis in Arizona, the bomb to Randall Cobb on 4th and 8 versus the Bears to win the division, the Jordy Nelson, a.k.a. White Lightning, those two perfecting that outside shoulder pass that eventually Devontae Adams picked up. and the symbiotic relationship with Adams and Rodgers, that they just had that connection that you couldn't stop. And if he threw it, it's probably going to get caught by, Devontae. It was awesome seeing him be the quarterback who helped to cap the Lions' 0-16 season. His role in evening and taking the lead in the Bears-Packers rivalry and eventual ownership. Remember, Scott, he still owns them. That Richard Rodgers toe drag swag versus the Cowboys, knocking them out of the playoffs. Who can forget RELAX? And who can forget when he predicted that they'd run the table? Some amazing memories that we'll never be able to forget. And I'm so thankful to been able to watch him as a Green Bay Packer. But like I said, it's time for the love era. I'm 100% behind it. I think he's going to be pretty good. He's going to be pretty special. And I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to have our weekly podcasts again down the road, starting in probably September, I'm guessing. And hopefully maybe a couple of podcasts in between that, maybe after the draft and the schedule release. I just can't wait to say, go, 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 Packer again. Later, guys.
Later, Dan Dialer, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow. So good to hear from you. And I didn't realize we have 11 draft picks on the board so far. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it could be a good draft for us. Of course, everyone's going to complain about it, but
that's what they do. I mean, and the fact that there's lots of good tight ends and wide receivers to look at. And yeah, Cobb and Mercedes Lewis and good old Crosby might be leaving the team as well between now and the preseason, either by their choice or by the Packers' choice. I guess all good things come to an end eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked that Crosby has been there as long as he has. I thought he was going to be gone a long time ago, but then he kept coming back and recovering. He had a couple weaker seasons, but he did great last season. So I don't know. And it surprises me that Cobb is not listed, in the starting there. Like Dobbs is over him. Like to me, he's the veteran, right? He's got the time under his belt, and I don't know. I think was he good because he was with Rodgers, or was he just a good receiver? Because he didn't do so well over, where was he? Was he at
Texans? I think
Texans.
Hard to tell. Somewhere in Texas.
Didn't hear much about him.
No,
you know what I mean. I mean, granted, we hear more about Packers players than we do anybody else, because we're we got our finger on the pulse of the Packers. But yeah, thanks for the voicemail, Dan. I'm looking forward to the draft for the first time in a while. I feel like, just because I have so many questions that need to be answered. So, and yes, I'm sick of the media as well. But I'm just so sick of the negativity in general. Like, you can't even have a conversation without it turning into an argument and people telling each other they're wrong. And like, can't we just have a discussion about it? And can't you just not tell me I'm wrong just because you feel differently than I do? I love the guy, but I'm not going to fall on my knees and kiss the ground in front of him. And I'll say thank you for the 15 years, but you've earned my respect. But I'm not going to pat your head on the way out,
or go on vacation to have some ayahuasca and do crazy things. Crazy.
The 4 days of darkness thing.
The 4 days of darkness since we last talked. Oh, you just never know what's going to happen. Dan, thank you so much for sharing so many of those great Aaron Rodgers memories, all those Hail Marys, the outside shoulder passes to Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, and many more. And of course, who can live without the RELAX and the run the tables? And we needed a great catchy slogan every year, but Scott, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And when it works, it's like, wow. So it's so good. But the big question that we need Dan Dialer to answer, because he is also Pack Sparrow. He's got his pirate ship. He's cruising around the world, going to Packer games and other places. Dan, is Pack Sparrow's ship going to be renamed the Love Boat?
The Love Boat. Well done.
These are the things we need to know. So
soon we'll be making another run of the table.
It's always awesome when Scott Clark sings on the podcast. This is so good. Let's see who else sent us a message. Fun stuff. Fun stuff indeed.
Hey there, Wayne and Scott. Jared in Colorado. I wanted to chime in about, some of the recent Packers news. A lot of this is going to be Aaron Rodgers centric. I mean, for the obvious reason, but of just him being Aaron Rodgers and the impact he's had, during his time on the team. But also because I've been working a lot of overtime this offseason. And so I've honestly tuned out a lot of Packers offseason news more than I'm used to. I honestly didn't find out about the whole Jets thing until like yesterday or 2 days ago or something like that. So, anyways, it's funny. So I have to say, when the offseason started, I thought that we would legitimately have Aaron Rodgers for at least one more year. And the only reason I say that is because, he signed that big 3-year deal going into this season that just wrapped up. The third year of that being voidable. And so I was like, okay, we got like a two more solid years. I think that's pretty appropriate. It sounds about right for, about as, how much time he's probably going to be playing in the league. Season happens, doesn't go the way we wanted to. And then all of a sudden, he's doing this, 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. And I will say, this is for me personally, the first time or I shouldn't say first time, but where the final straw for me, I guess, with Aaron Rodgers. I am not a fan, and I feel like I need to put a clear distinction here. I am all for NFL players getting their due when it comes to being paid fairly and being paid fairly for what they do, not only for their talent, of course, but also just the fact of the matter is, like, football is a violent sport and it takes a toll on the body and the brain. And so, I'm all for players standing up for themselves, especially when it comes to business. At the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and if they can get away with paying talent for the cheapest that they possibly can, in the hopes that a player may or may not fight for a higher salary, the NFL is going to do that. And so, I'm all for players, maybe standing out or, kind of standing out for themselves and holding out for a higher contract. Where I draw the line, however, is when you have an instance last season, Aaron Rodgers, kind of does this whole thing, wants all this money. He gets the money, plays for one season on that new contract, and then suddenly is like, well, maybe not. And so anyways, that was for me a point where I'm like, okay, man, like whether you come back this year or not, I don't really care at this point. That really just kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's the holding out for money, getting the money, and then deciding after 1 year into it that it's not enough money. It kind of bugs me. So anyways, fast forward obviously to where we're at now. Looks like Rodgers is in talks with the Jets. I don't know how much of what's true in terms of the Packers, wanting to get a bunch for him, and that's what's preventing the Jets from really pulling the trigger. Personally, I think he is worth whatever the Packers want for him. I mean, for goodness sakes, he's Aaron Rodgers. At a minimum, I think it would be a ripoff if the team doesn't get at least 2 first-round picks at a minimum. But here we are. We're talking about an Aaron Rodgers trade. Despite the recent feelings I have towards him that I just outlined, I'll look fondly at the Aaron Rodgers era. I mean, so many happy and exciting memories, as a team or as a Packers fan of the team. And, obviously we hoped that we would have gotten at least more than one ring to show for the Hall of Fame caliber quarterback play that we've seen. So that's obviously disappointing, but I think, for a long time over the years, that goes beyond just Aaron Rodgers, I think. But without getting too much into that, I mean, I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna miss the slogans that became popular over the years. Moments and seasons where it seemed all was lost, and looking to Aaron Rodgers for that kind of catchy, whether it be relax or run the table or what have you. Him saying something that alluded to something that he was seeing in the locker room that not everyone else was seeing, and then the team goes on an amazing run. getting everyone's hopes up, but then, obviously not all of that working out. So, I'm going to miss that. I mean, God, you want to talk about someone that's, someone that makes watching the game of football fun to watch. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of those players. And as a fan, we've been spoiled. I know as a fan, I've been spoiled. My entire life, I've seen two quarterbacks play for the Green Bay Packers, and that's Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I'm fully aware of how spoiled I've been as a fan of a football team, and I'm also fully aware that I'm a sweet summer child, so to speak. I haven't seen the Packers minus a few outlier seasons. I've always pretty much assumed that they're going to make the playoffs, which I think is a lot more than what a lot of other teams can ask for. So I appreciate everything he did for the team. Although admittedly, he probably, I will say he's, he probably definitely has a little bit of an ego on his head. I feel like a lot of that over the years has been inflated. If you look at, kind of what he's done behind the scenes, in terms of, just what he's done for communities that he's been involved in, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, and, what he was, the amount of money he was forking out to keep businesses afloat in his hometown. And not calling the spotlight to himself when he does that. I think that's one thing I could really appreciate. So I think off the field overall, yeah, maybe he's got an ego to himself, but at the same time, I can appreciate what him actually putting his money to where his mouth is in terms of, supporting people in need when they need it. So I feel like I'm going a little bit too long. I mentioned in my last call during your last episode to close the season that the Packers kind of were trying to pry their Super Bowl window open going into this past season. Maybe they should have started the rebuild, last year and kind of rip it off like a Band-Aid. They didn't. I think we're going to start seeing some of the pain here. I mean, with Rodgers going to be gone, it's looking like kind of rumblings of other headlines that other key players are probably going to be off the team. But regardless, I'm excited, man. I mean, anytime you have change, it's an exciting thing. Obviously, you hope that change is good, but I'm ready. I mean, I'm ready to see Jordan Love. For goodness sake, the team traded up to get him in the first round. It's about dang time that we see whether or not that was worth it. So I'm all aboard the Jordan Love trade, if nothing else, because I'm a fan of the team and I want him to succeed. I mean, who doesn't want their new player to succeed, even if we haven't seen enough to determine whether or not he will. So with that, that's my thoughts. Hope you guys are having a great off season, and I hope the community's doing well. Blue, green, and gold till I'm dead and cold, and go Pack, go. Love you guys.
Thank you so much, Jared. We really appreciate your email. Lots of good insight on there. Lots to unpack as well. He made an interesting point about the contract. He signed this 3-year contract, and then no, that's not enough. Is that I deserve that much money because I'm such a valuable player and I didn't realize as a valuable player last year? Or is it he's now owed this for putting up with the Packers organization? Like, I would just kind of love to know how that is, because I didn't think about it that way. Like, there's a 3-year contract and now the contract's not good enough. I don't know. I imagine he's very frustrated, or was very frustrated, watching Brady, just going on to another team and being successful and winning a Super Bowl at another team. And, he's hoping that's going to happen. I don't know. Are you going to root for him? I mean, I know it's the NFC, obviously not going to root for him against the Packers, but are you going to root for the Jets?
I don't know. I've always rooted for them a little bit, but aren't they in the same division as the Bills? I think I'm mostly going to be rooting for the Bills again, as far as on that side of things. I did root for Brett Favre when he went to the Jets and such. I don't know how much I'll be rooting for Aaron Rodgers. Let's see how the season goes. Is he going to have a lot of fun? Him and Lazard getting a lot of touchdowns? That'll be fun. That'll really be fun. But I'm going to be rooting for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, much like Jared said that he's going to do. And yeah, fully aware how spoiled we are as Packers fans with 30 plus years of great quarterback play.
Who I want to hear from is a New York Jets fan. How excited are you guys to be getting Aaron Rodgers and Alan Lazard? I would
think they're pretty excited, but right now they still think that everything could fall through with all the contract negotiations. They don't want to celebrate too early.
That, and Aaron's not a spring chicken anymore either. You know, how much time has he got left before he's going to hang up? You know what I mean? So, you know, is it going to be worth it to have is he going to be able to bring his team to the Super Bowl? Is he going to be able to pull a Tom Brady? You know what I mean?
That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. Oh, let's check in with our weekly. Well, it's not even weekly. It's half season. Who am I kidding? Let's check in with our poll that we posted in the Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com, as well as on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod this week. But before this week's poll.
Well, yeah, I thought it would be kind of fun to go back and look at our last poll we did at the end of last season, right after that season-ending loss to the Lions. So this is the question that we did. And again, this is, months ago. But we asked, did we just witness Aaron Rodgers' final game as a member of the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers? The choices were either no, he'll be back, yes, he's retiring, or yes, but he will be playing elsewhere in 2023. I don't remember my response. Do you remember yours, Wayne?
Not clearly, because so much has gone on since then.
I know. I think if I remember correctly, I feel like I was going to say that he was retiring. Like he was going to retire. Clearly that wasn't right, but I can't be for certain. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what our community thought, again, at the time of posing that question back, after the loss to the Lions. 49% said, nope, he'll be back. 37% said, yes, he's retiring. And only 14% were correct, saying yes, but he will be playing elsewhere in 2023. So that was kind of an interesting look back to see those poll results.
I know, it's just 3 months ago or something like that. And it was just hard to fathom Aaron going to another team, even though at that time, I think the 14% that said that he would be playing somewhere else, at that point, it kind of seemed like it was going to be the Raiders.
Yep.
So crazy how the world works. So
or the not Cowboys, the Broncos. There was a big talk, scuttlebutt about the Broncos possibly wanting Rodgers too. It's like there's just so many questions, and I still have so many more questions, but lots of offseason left.
All will be revealed. But with our new poll question, as the Jordan Love era begins in Green Bay, how excited are you to watch the new look Packers this coming season? Are you hyped up? Let's go. Or are you just always hopeful or nervous, but you're going to watch? Or I can't even think about it.
I have a feeling my feelings will change as we get closer to the actual week one. Right now, I'm going to say always hopeful. Like I said earlier, always been a Packer fan before any specific player. Packers first before anybody else. So I'm definitely going to be hopeful. Am I hyped up yet? No, but it's March. We've got half a year before we're going to be looking at playing more football. So I'm not going to say I'm hyped, but I'm definitely hopeful. How about you?
I am hyped up. Let's go, Pack. Go, Scott.
This is my surprise face.
That doesn't look very surprised. The votes that came in after we combined Facebook and Twitter, 64%, which I am surprised to see, all said hyped up, let's go. 17% voted to say always hopeful, like you, Scott. 14% are nervous, but are definitely going to watch. And 5% said they can't even think about it at this point.
We had some comments on the poll as well. First off, Royal Storm on Twitter said, he looks all right, and given time with the starters, the next 1 to 2 seasons will truly show us what we got. I agree there. And in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group, superfan Aaron Peterson says, I'm excited, and I hope he was worth the wait. That's an interesting point, because remember how insanely upset everybody was that we drafted Jordan Love, instead of getting like Rodgers a receiver or whatever that season. This is where we find out if that was the right call or not, and I'm looking forward to it. Bill Gardner said, sad to see Rodgers go, but very excited to see what this young team can become. Also, anticipating everyone getting mad if Love isn't MVP caliber right away. Seriously, you're spot on there, Bill. Everyone's going to be, he could have a just great on paper game but the game is a loss by like 2 or 3 points, and everyone's just going to be like, that's it. Love's terrible. He wasn't the guy. It's not going to happen overnight, guys.
Yeah,
it's going to take some time.
They're going to be saying things like, I can't believe we didn't draft 3 quarterbacks this past year. People do crazy things. David Newman, also in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community, says, I'm hyped, but understand that this might take a couple of years. I don't imagine the Packers being overly competitive this particular year, and maybe we'll make a wild card spot. It's unlikely, though. I just want to see Love show flashes of greatness, and I'll be hopeful for the future.
I like that.
Yes.
Flashes of greatness. That's a positive thing.
We'll take them. Absolutely. And Randy Hansen, I am so stoked to see Jordan Love play as a starter. Just a friendly reminder that there were Packers fans who were booing Aaron Rodgers in training camp his first year because many still wanted Brett Favre. Also keep in mind that Rodgers was only 6-10 his first season. The coaches have seen enough and they believe in Love. And he, like Favre and Rodgers, has big hands and a strong arm, which are must-haves to play in the cold weather at Lambeau Field. Love may also be more athletic than both of them. Cannot wait.
Oh, that's a bold statement.
Whoa.
Woo.
I like it.
And the last one comes from Daniel Duffy, who says he's saying he's not excited when he commented this, but he said, if Love is any good, why didn't teams who needed quarterbacks last year even look at him? I mean, they were looking at him, weren't they? Weren't they talking about if something doesn't happen with Rodgers, then the Packers were going to lose Love?
Something like that.
I never heard of. I don't hear any specifics, but I mean, at the end of the day, what are our other options? If not Love, what do you want to take Justin Fields from the Bears? That's not going to happen. I mean, what other options do we have outside of the draft? We need a backup. We definitely need a backup. So that's going to happen, but how early in the draft is going to be key. Anyway, as always, everybody, your calls, emails, comments, and support are so much a part of the Packers Fan Podcast. Thank you so much. Remember to join the PFP Facebook community and be part of the conversations at packerscommunity.com. Even during the offseason, lots of good conversations going there. We don't have the schedule yet, but we do know who our opponents are going to be for 2023. Obviously, we'll be playing the Bears, Lions, and Vikings. But in addition, for home games, we'll also have the Chiefs, we'll have the Chargers, we'll have the Rams, we'll have the Saints, and we'll have the Buccaneers. Our away games outside of the interdivisional teams will also be the Falcons, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Steelers. So stay tuned. A little bit more to go to find out what that actual schedule is like, but we're eagerly anticipating who that week 1 game is going to be.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty good collection of home and away teams. And the Raiders, Las Vegas, it's not super close to me, but it's about the same distance as Phoenix. So depending on when that game is, maybe safety in numbers at the Las Vegas Stadium for a bunch of Packers fans. I'll have to look into that.
I'm just still shocked that they're not making us play San Francisco again. Like, isn't that like they just do it every season? But there you have it. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I want to remind you guys all about my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider. Still doing that podcast every single week, even during the off season. I would love if you guys checked it out. I recently had an incredible opportunity to talk to a guy by the name of Rodgers Sharp. If you're not familiar with Rodgers Sharp, he is a legend in the pinball world. He is the guy that back in 1976 convinced the state of New York to lift its 35-year-old ban on pinball. Believe it or not, pinball was illegal. There were pinball speakeasies in the United States because they considered it gambling for some crazy, wild political reason. But they recently made a film based on his story called Pinball, the Man Who Saved the Game. And I got to screen the movie and also meet Roger, whom the movie is based on, and convinced him to come talk to me in the podcast. I got to talk to him for over an hour about pinball. It is one of my proudest moments since I've been podcasting, and I hope that you will please check it out. You can practically hear me grinning from ear to ear throughout the entire interview, and I would love if you checked it out. Our website is thegamingoutsider.com.
And I just listened to that episode the other day, and you're right. I could tell that you were smiling during the entire thing, and he was smiling as well. You could tell he loved talking about what he did and what pinball means to him and how you both explained pinball in different ways, but it was very agreeable. Highly recommend you checking out that interview. It's a really good one at thegamingoutsider.com. value for value. Thank you for giving back to your Packers Fan Podcast via Patreon. We really appreciate it. Details for becoming a patron and other ways you can give back to the show are at packersfanpodcast.com/give back. And with that, go Pack Goes, and thank yous going out to Dan Dyler for all of your support at the Jim Ringo level. And Jay Walters, thanks as always. And go Pack Go for your invaluable AR12 level support. And although we'll keep the Aaron Rodgers level going here at Patreon, we're also going to be adding a very similar, yet at the same time fresh and new. It's a new level inspired by good old number 10 himself, Mr. Jordan Love. Stay tuned for that.
Also, Go Pack Goes, and thank yous to our loyal Brett Favre level supporters, Colin Nolan from Ireland, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast, Scott Bors, and Andre in LA. Also, Curly Lambeau level Go Pack Goes, and thank yous to Joe Christensen, Matt Haig, and Hank Davis from the TPE Network. If you too are interested in supporting the show and maybe even becoming a patron of the PFP, check out the details at packersfanpodcast.com/give back. As a reminder, we are the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but we would love to be if you guys are listening. Also, please follow the Packers Fan Podcast where you listen to your shows, and remember to tell your friends about the podcast. We do appreciate it. We would love to have more people listening. Thank you so much.
And follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. Follow Scott at GoCastScott, and follow me at Wayne Henderson. And as we get ready to find out which college players the Packers will select with their numerous draft picks, let's head on out with help from Patreon supporter Mr. Dan Dyler.
All right, this is Dan, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow, and Brett.
Coming in from Tottenham, all the way from London, England. And this is the Go Pack Go.
Go, 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 go.
Go Pack Go!